Welcome to the Sack of Stats podcast. I'm Pam Maldonado in Vegas, joined by my girl Kelly in Vegas, who's in Florida. I'm here to talk about week 15 of the NFL for the contest picks that we like to do each week. Kelly and my girl, we're doing 3-2 in back-to-back weeks. It's pretty solid. You called it last week that if we absolutely hate our card, then we're at worst going 3-2, and that's exactly what happened. So that's the key. I mean, we say it every week. That's the key. Hit our card and we do well.
I think that this might have been my second worst best bet of the year. And man, the Eagles look good in all the comments. Everybody like, are you guys going to stop going against the Eagles? And I sent you some really ugly dogs, and the Bears is one of them. So maybe we're going to piss people off once again. We'll see. There's just a lot. And I think the biggest thing is what we're going through right now is we understand each other, right? We've been doing this now for 2 years. We understand, okay, I've got mine, you've got yours. And then trying to fuse those other ones, I think works out really well for us for the most part, because there's two different sides as to why we like it. There's whether it's the analytics side, whether it's the actual algorithm of like the math saying, okay, we're getting 1.5 points better here, or if it's the situational play. And so hopefully we can finish the season strong. And yeah, 3-2. I hate to break it to all those out there that have been lied to by the internet and Twitter. 3-2. Pam and I go 3-2 every week for the rest of our lives. We're retired.
That's how retired. And that's how it works. People don't realize. I know that it's not fun because you can't parlay and hit a 5-teamer, but I mean, come on.
But that's why you do those things for fun. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, you've parlayed our dogs before on the money line, and we've had all 5. And I do it during college football season. Listen, fun parlays are all for it. Like you want to go to Vegas and sit there at a table with your buddies, and there's 7 of you, and each gives a best bet. And you put it together on one ticket, and everybody throws in $10 for $70 to win $4,500. Like, of course, I am not saying don't have fun entertainment bets. But if we're talking professional and showing discipline and betting numbers, not teams, and or looking at certain, defensive schemes versus offensive play callers, there's so much more that goes into it. Like, I'm all for having fun, but sometimes I got to remind, even some of my friends, like, hey, like, I got to show some discipline here. Just because I went 0-2 this morning does not mean I can go hurry up and bet the Sunday night football game.
Right. I'm going to go bet on KBO baseball now because it's going on and I need to make up my money back somehow.
Listen, the only time I bet on KBO baseball was during COVID, okay? Russian team.
I will not hold it against you.
Listen, we were in some dark times, okay, Pam? It was better than betting on Madden Sims, which is what my former employer had me doing. Those were fun, but I couldn't believe people were actually betting their hard-earned dollars on it.
And they still have Sims on the betting sites. I'm like, who is betting this right now? We have sports back. We actual sports. You don't need to bet on Sims. All right, regardless, what it is that we're doing, we're putting together 5 against the spread picks each week in the NFL. Automatically in is Kelly's best bet. Automatically in is my best bet. Overall, we are doing pretty well. It's 37, 31, and 2. I mean, we're not obviously winning all the money here, but we're trying to it's just very difficult every week as a partner in a group to do these contests. I'm doing better with you than I am doing solo in the other one. I have a losing record in the other one. Picking 5 games is fucking tough. Our best bets are what's doing well, and that's what you should really focus in on. Is we are 17 and 11 combined between us. That's great because more often than not, you and I are backing underdogs. And so if you ended up taking those on the money line, you're probably doing pretty well. But 17 and 11 is a great record.
I wanted to comment on that. So in my pick 5 league, I am 37 and 33. Okay. So picking 5 games is really tough. You want to know what I am in pick 7? 48 and 43. I'm not going to win millions of dollars, but I'm a few games above 500. Yeah. And that's really all you can ask for when you're betting one of the toughest markets out there. Yeah. Even with the stale lines in the contest, it's not that really stale in the NFL unless some major injury happens. A quarterback's out, several cluster injuries on an offensive line. Outside of that, you're never really going to get a value pick, if you will.
And I do want to also add, so I listen back to our podcast because I want to hear, I pretty much listen to the podcast because I'm reminding myself of what I like and don't like and how much I liked it. So for example, a couple of weeks ago when I don't remember it was 3 weeks ago, I pivoted. I was like, oh, well, this is my best bet. oh, but the contest is a different line. Wait, okay, I can't do that anymore. Change it. And like I literally changed it like on the fly right then and there, and it ended up not cashing. But so I actually didn't like put like a lot of money on it because I was like, well, for the show, like it's a best bet purpose, but like just because it's real life doesn't mean that I'm gonna be like go put my entire bankroll on it. So I listened for like the inflection, I listened for strength of reasoning, and I listen for like conviction. Is so I think like as an audience, like that's what people, whether it's like following us, following like whatever content of creator that you're listening to, listen to how confident they actually are in a pick. Are we just giving picks like, oh yeah, like Lions, oh it's a little good. Okay, well let's put it on the card. Or like, oh man, I fucking love the Lions. Like last week, you heard it in my voice. I was so fucking excited about the Lions on the money line. I was like, they're gonna do so well. It was the spread that scared me, but on the money line, I loved it. And so like if you just like listen to that type of if you just listen to that type of output from whatever content creator you're following, more often than not, you're gonna end up with like a better card at the end of the day because you're listening to people's conviction and not just like, oh, here's picks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get a lot of shit for never, like, on Twitter anyway, not giving out like some sort of analysis. And I'm going, well, I only do 18 freaking shows a week. Like, if you want to hear some analysis, we've got plenty. It's just one of those things. So I agree with you. You've got to be able to understand who you're either following or fading, whatever it may be, and I've always said, if you're going to follow and you're cherry picking, Godspeed. And the same thing goes for fading. If you're fading, you better fade it all. You better not just say, okay, I'm fading. Otherwise, you just happen to have a play on the other side. I hate when people jump in the comments like, I'm fading you this weekend. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. You mean you like the other side?
You know what else I hate? When people respond to you, they're like, oh, but such and such is on the opposite. Okay.
Do you want me to just be like, okay, good. Okay, that makes me happy.
One of us is going to be right. What do you want?
That's basically what's going on in my group chat right now with all the Wager Talk guys. We have an entry and we crushed it and tied in one of the quarterlies, and it was cool. And now the wheels have just fallen off over the last 6 weeks, and we can't seem to agree. Like, my best bet is head to head with Prez's best bet, and then now the guy who's in charge of it's like, all right, well, you guys should just cancel out both. And I'm like, no, like, I think I should be able to give my reasoning if it's my best bet.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And then so he's like, all right, you keep, which we'll get into here in a second, you keep your best bet, I'll go here. And I'm like, shit, I like the other side of that one too. It's kind of, because so like you kind of get into these like debates, and I think it's just really good to like stick to your guns, what you know, and only trust a select few.
Yeah. So then let's get right into it. Your best bet, and it's so crazy that it's yours because I was like, I had opposite.
Did you? So did Prez.
So I'm really interested. So okay, great. So then talk about your best bet. Go for it.
This is tough. The next 3-4 weeks, well, week 18 is a little different because we know so many teams will be sitting their starters, etc., and ready for the playoffs. And even starting week 17, we do start to see it. But there's some teams that you're going to hear a lot to be made of different things this week, Pam. This is a must win. This is this team, if they don't win, they're going to be out of the playoffs, all of these things. And the bookmakers know all of this stuff too, right? That's kind of why I'm taking the Titans. They are really down bad, right? They just lost to your Jaguars. And now all of a sudden the whole world is falling apart in Tennessee. Well, the good news is this game isn't in Tennessee. It's in LA. And Mike Vrabel, 5-1 in his last 6 road games. He has played much better in the last 18 months on the road than he has at home for whatever reason. LA, on the flip side, we know how banged up they are, and they really are in a bad spot. And we've seen it over the last few weeks. The other thing is Derrick Henry's kind of been on this roller coaster ride, if you will. And I understand I can't sit here and flip a coin and guess when he's going to have a 100-yard rushing game or not. Right. But if I could make an educated enough guess, I would say it would come against the 28th rushing defense. It's giving up almost 150 yards per game. So I'm banking on run, kill the clock, Vrabel, don't make mistakes, don't turn the ball over. The only thing that really scares me, and this is the kind of the caveat, is the Titans defense has not been great, and they don't put on a ton of pass rush. So Herbert could carve them up. Good news is he's lacking some weapons and really a 2-dimensional game right now, because this Chargers team is not doing well. They're basically going to be limping into the playoffs at best. Right. And that's a team I'm looking to fade. I know that the Titans have just been, what's the best word? Ass. I feel like I've been hanging out with younger guys lately. They have been terrible. You know, that's what somebody would tweet me. But Kelly, why would you take the Titans? They're ass. Like, seriously, this is what my life is. I wanted to look at the look ahead line, though, because it was one other thing. The look ahead line, literally, because they were so high on the Chargers to start the season, 4.5. 4.5. And now they've lost 3 straight and the line's 3. A little fishy. I think this is probably one of the more fishy lines of the week. And I like the Titans a lot. There was kind of 2 plays here where I was really debating back and forth. And the reason why I went with Tennessee is because I haven't really been on that fade the Chargers train, if you will. But the Titans have done really great against AFC West, primarily against teams named Kansas City. But that being said, I love them in the underdog role. Laying points with them, not so much. Catching points, Tennessee is just a far better bet.
Yeah, this season, the Chargers are 4-4 against the spread as favorites. In the last 2 seasons, they're 8-11 against the spread as favorites. So yes, typically this is a team that you want to back as a dog and not as a favorite. But no, so the reason why I'll just give you my opposite. Like, of course it's your best bet. I trust you. And it makes sense. I know the Chargers defense is complete ass, but the only thing that I see of why I do like the Chargers is because their offense that was the first game last week against the Dolphins, 23-17 win, where they had Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, all on the field at the same time, and it makes a fucking difference. Justin Herbert looks great when he has all 3 of his weapons out there. Mike Williams has been a fucking game changer. He's so good, and when you put him up on the field, there's no end for Justin Herbert in sight. And I don't know if the Titans have the offense to keep up with it competitively. If this turns into like a shootout passing game, you can't run the ball. you can run the ball.
No, but if this turns into a shootout, Pam, like last week did, my best bet's going up in flames in the first quarter, just like last week. But I'd prefer it that way. If I'm going to lose, just blow it out. Don't even give me any semblance of hope. Because you know what I did at that same game? I walked outside, sat down next to my producer that's an Eagles fan in my blue hoodie. Eagles score. I walked back inside. I said, I'm getting a high noon and some sushi. Turned on Red Zone on the TV, walked outside. Eagles score again. He's like, you should stay out here. And I was like, no. You freeze outside. I'm going back to the club. I'm going to eat some more sushi and have some more high noons and watch Red Zone because I'm done with this game. And that's kind of what I really, truly believe. Either this is going to be a knockout, drag out fight, like a 17-14 type game, or it's going to be ugly and it's going to be 31-10. And I'm going to go, why the hell did I bet the Titans? And that's just full disclosure. I don't love this week's card. That is my best bet. I do have a 1B, which maybe we will get to. Other than that, there are some really, really ugly plays this week. Like ugly. Like hold your nose, walk to the window with sunglasses on, put a paper bag over your head while you're sitting in the sports book. Like I don't want anybody to know I have this ticket in pocket.
I don't dislike your bet at all. I think you can make a case for both sides. So I'm glad that we're going to talk about it, and then it just ended up being your best. But something to go along with backing yours, the Titan side at +3, is that 43% of the carries against the Chargers have gained 5 or more yards. That's the highest rate in the league. So yes, they're going to have to rely on that ground game that they haven't had in the last few weeks. If they don't find that ground game against this team, well, then they are really fucking broken, and something else is going on beyond there. So then my best bet honestly isn't that much better, and you can make a case from both sides too. And I fucking love the Lions again. I am backing Dan Campbell. I am backing Jared Goff. And I know that people are gonna say, like, oh my God, Jared Goff on the road, he's so bad. He has 20 touchdowns at home. He has only 2 on the road. And yet they're still able to produce all of these points, and they're producing 31 points in back-to-back road games. Why? Because they have fucking great running backs in Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. And Williams, he had 4 rushing scores combined in the Lions' last 2 road games. He is second in the league for red zone touches. And the storyline should be that 73% of the scoring production from the Lions on the road is in rushing. And that is the exact defense vulnerability of the Jets. They are 30th in opponent rushing touchdown percentage. So it might be difficult to get downfield in order to put up some of those rushing scores. They can definitely break one off, but we've seen it in back-to-back weeks where the Jets defense has kind of fallen off a bit. They've lost by double digits in back-to-back games to the Bills and to the Vikings. Honestly, I am putting the Lions in the same offensive comparison to the Bills and the Vikings. Like, they are good. This is a well-oiled machine. Dan Campbell knows what the fuck he's doing, and this team loves Jared Goff. Like, they're good. And let's just admit it.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with anything you have to say. I obviously am not looking to take the Jets here, okay? And that's been well known. There are just certain teams I just don't do well with. The New York Jets are one of them. They can't put up any points. Like they're averaging just 17 points a game this season. That's terrible. Yes, Detroit has a weaker defense. I would agree with that. The only thing that scares me or that gives me any semblance of thinking the Jets could be the right side is their pass rush. That's it. Yeah. Right? If they can get to Jared Goff, they can throw him off his game. I don't know if they can, because you're right. The last 3 games, Jared Goff has played his ass off. Detroit's covered 6 straight, and I'm not one to step in front of them. I said that last week. I teased the Vikings plus 8.5. Game sitting on 8. No need to panic. No need to score. Kicked a field goal. That was not very much fun. I understand why they had to kick a field goal. Yes. But I thought, hey, listen, we're in a divisional game here, but I was not about to take the Vikings plus 2.5, even after the line flipped. Like, this is a really, like you said, a really well-oiled machine in the Lions.
So I love the Lions this week, and I love it just as much as I loved last week. So that's my best bet. So your best bet is going to be the Titans plus 3 at the Chargers. My best bet is the Lions as a pick to the Jets. Now the rest of the card, you said it's a very difficult week. I agree. There's a lot of things that you can make a case for both. So it's trying to figure out kind of finding the vulnerabilities of either side, and if the opponent has an opportunity to exploit that. So then let's run through some options. What do you think about the Ravens at the Browns?
So we did just get an update on Huntley. He sounds like he is cleared to play. Mm-hmm. My only concern is how healthy is he? And that's kind of a caveat. We know exactly what we're getting from Deshaun Watson, and that is
not much.
Yeah, he's been terrible. And we kind of knew he might be terrible, right? We kind of knew that. I mean, when you don't play for 18 months, all the working out, all the anything that you can do still is not going to build that continuity with your new team. Right. And that's what we're seeing, is that he's just not getting that. And it concerns me. So
I love that you said continuity, because that's exactly my thought process. This is less about Huntley and who's behind center for the Ravens, and more about the defense for the Ravens, because they've become one of the best defenses in the league. Over the last few games, they are limiting, especially against the run, they are limiting opponents to 53 rushing yards per game, 2.7 yards per carry. Adding linebacker in Roquan Smith has been such a game changer for them. It's just like been a boost of defense. Their sack percentage has gone up. Their tackles has gone up. Just like collectively as a unit, they've become stronger. And Deshaun Watson doesn't have the continuity. He doesn't have the familiarity yet. He's not yet adjusted. He's not yet acclimated. And this is not the defense that you want to face, still trying to find your bells and whistles. Like, he has 3
absolutely
sacks,
not. I mean, this could be a very, very long day for Deshaun. I mean, if you look at just the season as a whole, whether it's him or Jacoby Brissett, those guys have been on their ass a lot. It's been rough, and you got to have some time to make some of these throws, especially when you're still working on that timing with your receivers. Full disclosure, I have Ravens on my long list. I wussed out because I was a little worried about Huntley, so I threw him in the teaser. The easiest teaser play.
This is like the best teaser option of the week.
2.5 to 8.5. I also tease the Steelers for what it's worth. You could tease the Bills, even though that scares the crap out of me. We'll talk about that one here in a minute. But full disclosure, I don't hate this Ravens pick at all. I just didn't get to the window with some of those question marks on the offensive side of things, because we know Lamar's hurt. If Huntley's not a go, the line is going to shift probably pretty significantly. But he passed concussion protocol. They just haven't named a starter for this week.
So then we can put it on our queue. What do you think about the Steelers and the Panthers? You just mentioned right now how you have the Steelers on a teaser, but what do you think the line is 2.5?
So the 2.5 versus the 3, because the market's at 3, is really intriguing here. Pam, remember when you said you loved the Vikings on the money line?
Right.
I played the Panthers on the money line because I thought that was a really nice middle here. For me personally, I said, okay, listen, we got this low total, an okay Steelers team. They're not great, but they're okay. And you've got the Panthers playing at a very high level right now.
Right.
This team fired their coach, got rid of every single quarterback, got rid of Christian McCaffrey, and they are sitting in second place right now in the NFC South. All you got to do is lay 3 measly points with this team, 2.5 in the contest. I do think
in the other.
Yep, it is 3 in the other, which is why it's interesting. It's 2.5 in ours. It's just been crazy.
So Carolina is 6-1 against the spread since firing Matt Rule. Before that, with him as coach, they were 1-5. Since week 10, opponents have scored. We're talking about how much of an improvement they have made defensively. They've also become like a better, just like an improved defense. Opponents have scored on Carolina at the 3rd lowest rate in the league, and the Steelers already can't score touchdowns. They have the lowest touchdown rate in the NFL. And it's Kenny Pickett. Like, do you have an updated injury on him? Because this is his 2nd concussion of the season. Is this kid gonna last like in the NFL for another 3-5 years? If Mitch Trubisky gets the start, he has 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. If he doesn't get the start, because apparently the players in the locker room are asking for Mason Rudolph, if he gets the start, he hasn't played since December of last year. So I would say I really do like Geno Smith as a quarterback. I think he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the league. And so because of that, he still managed to throw 2 interceptions against the Panthers last week. And then I was like, okay, was that a Geno Smith error, or was that like, no, the Panthers defense has stepped up. They have forced 5 turnovers in the last 3 games. So all of a sudden we're talking about how much of an improvement they made. So on the injury list, also for the Steelers, Najee Harris, the running back, and tight end Pat Freiermuth, neither of them practice on Wednesday. As of right now, I just refreshed it. There's no Thursday injury list, but damn it, that's back-to-back games where you and I are in sync, and that's never usually a good thing.
I know. And listen, who would have thought that I wanted to lay points with Sam Darnold? In what world? I honestly think
dad.
It is kind of interesting when teams do these fire sales, if you will, how much better it is for the people that didn't fit in the system. Look how much happier Christian McCaffrey is. Look at Baker Mayfield. Okay. Let Sam run his offense. He was traded there for a reason. Mm-hmm. This team has covered 6 of their last 7 games. I think we ride the hot hand here in the Panthers.
Oh my God. Let's go, Sam Darnold.
What are you going to do? Listen, if Mason Rudolph comes out here and beats me, or like you said, Kenny Pickett is available, or even if it's Mitch Trubisky, whoever it may be, because it looks like Tomlin still hasn't named a starter. None of those guys are some dual threat quarterback that concerns me. Not against this Carolina defense anyway.
And the Steelers defense just hasn't been the same Steelers defense we've seen in years past. Like Mike Tomlin is still making it work and they're doing well, but there's still vulnerabilities. And okay, we'll put it on. So then we got 3. So we have your best bet.
Yeah, I already wrote down the Panthers. There's 3 games that I actually really liked this week, and that was one. Like I said, I played the Panthers in real life because I did kind of overextend myself with the Steelers teasers. I do think that there's still a worthy teaser, a Wong teaser, if you will, but I do think the Panthers will win.
That's very difficult to do. I don't know how you do that. So if I like the Panthers, I couldn't put the Steelers in a teaser. Like, I'm not trying to look for the middle. I think if I like a team, I would hope that they blow it out.
Well, when you realize that 3, 7, 4, 2, 1, 5, 6 are all coming into play. 9 is the only one that really scares me. Obviously, because you're only getting plus 8.5. When you have all of those newer key numbers, I mean, we are seeing such a shift in where the games are landing in the NFL. Now, granted, 3 and 7 are still king, but when you start to see 2 pop up, 1,
it's because the teams are now starting to go for it more on 4th down. Yep. They're starting to go for the 2-point conversions.
Yep.
And so they're foregoing the extra points, and it's adding this volatility into the spread. Yeah. And so like the Wong teaser, is Mr. Wong still around? I'd like him to readjust his strategy. Like, is he a real man? I don't know. I've never looked into that.
Yes, he is a real man. I don't know if he's still around. I will ask.
But I think like somebody needs to do an update, because there's got to be like a new and improved strategy into these teasers. Because like for a while there, the Wong teasers weren't working out in the first half.
Oh my God, they're getting crushed.
Now all of a sudden in the second half, they're all hitting, and then we're kind of like back.
You know what it is too, Pam, is that in the beginning of the year, the bookmakers are kind of doing what we're doing. They're going off based on their power ratings of how good they think teams are going to be. They start adjusting. Their numbers get better as the season goes along.
Right.
And that's really what I think we're seeing here as far as why the teasers are all of a sudden just coming in hot.
Yeah. So then, okay, well then we have 3 games. Let me get your opinion then on the Giants and Washington, the spread 4.5.
Yep, I'm an idiot. I like the Giants. Bottom line. I know. It's the dumbest thing. I just watched this team in person. They have a ton of injuries. They have a ton of problems. They just got their asses kicked by the Eagles. But this is the big caveat here with the Commanders. And this is something that I like to look for situationally, okay? Commanders just rocking and rolling. Boom, bye week. I think it kills so much momentum. Because it's not like Taylor Heineke is just some like football god. He's fitting in Ron Rivera's system. He's dinking and dunking his way downfield. Every once in a while, he'll have a breakout play, but he's not doing anything prolific. Right. Just not. Divisional road underdogs still are king in the NFL. It doesn't really matter to me that this line is 4.5 because I think the Giants are going to win this game. I know they just tied 2 short weeks ago, but this team is so much better on the road. I would not be. I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't go back to the well with the Giants. Okay. Well, we're opposite, so we'll go ahead and pass on that. What do you think then about the Rams and the Packers? Line 7. You know how easy it looks, and I obviously am not going to do this, how easy it looks to just throw Green Bay in a teaser. Like, it's just like Green Bay just has to win a game at home. Just win. Aaron Rodgers, every time you hear somebody say, I'm just asking them to win, that's never a good thing. That's kind of my point. It's terrifying, right? So all I'm asking is just Aaron Rodgers, who during the regular season, obviously there's an asterisk during the playoffs, just asking Aaron Rodgers to win at home. I hate this game. I want nothing to do with it. Full disclosure. Great. And that's because okay, perfect. Dolphins, Bills spread 7. The other contest has 7.5. 7.5 would be a definite play for me. This is scary. You have so many weaving situations here, right? Supposedly, Tua's never played in freezing weather before. Supposedly, right? He went to school, or he went to high school in Hawaii. He played football at Alabama. He's never been exposed. I'm sorry. I was just at Army Navy and I was on the sidelines. And when I was freezing, this guy goes, "Why don't you sit down on the heated seat?" And I go, "That's what those are." And I'm sitting on the bench, just like thawing out. The NFL is going to have those in Buffalo. Like, let's be real. They got the big coats. Like this cold weather narrative is like, I think a little overblown. It's kind of like when we talk about West Coast teams traveling east, that narrative never gets brought up anymore because it's completely irrelevant. Right. Miami has been terrible on the road though. Their defense is trash. Covered 1 game on the road. And then you got to throw in the other situation. But the Bills are seeking revenge. Can anybody tell me how many points revenge is worth? Because it's not built into the betting line. So full disclosure, I thought at 7.5. I blinked and didn't do it because now it's 7. I was going to tease the Bills, get them down to 1.5, win the game by a field goal. That's about all I got here, Pam. I'll be honest with you. I really don't want much to do with this because you know me. I love those divisional road dogs. I do. They've been so profitable. So trying to cherry pick which ones I'm going to play each week has not been that much fun. I was interested in potentially backing the Bills at -7 because we faded Miami because of how bad Tua has been on the road. But it's more so than of like how bad the Miami defense is on the road, like significantly worse. Like they're already bad. Well, they're dead last, like in every defensive metric when traveling. And then what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is Tua. With him, it's so kind of crazy how like I talk about like in men's tennis, like it really is such a big thing of having like momentum and like confidence and just like he doesn't have any confidence in himself right now. And you see it in his throwing ability. His throws are so crazy. Like if you take away the center of the field, if you saw him trying to throw to the sticks, like on either direction, like where are you going, man? He doesn't know. He's so confused. He's kind of just like really lost any bit of confidence. You're talking about the momentum with the Washington Commanders coming in out of the bye. All of that momentum that he had built up into the first half of the season just completely has faded and like gone even worse in the past 2 weeks. And that's because he was supposed to get some of it back last week against a worse defense. That didn't come to fruition. And now you're playing against the Bills, who are super well acclimated to this type of weather in their home stadium. I was interested in maybe backing the Bills. Yeah, I mean, I could see why you like the Bills, especially at 7, not 7.5. We can pencil it in because I definitely don't like the Miami side, right? So, well, if you don't seem to be too high on it, and I don't want to force pick, so let's keep it rolling. We'll just keep it rolling, but we can pencil it in because there's a few other games that I like that are absolutely and utterly disgusting. And outside of that, I don't have big opinions.
What do you think about the Falcons and the Saints, the line 3.5?
God, the Saints, man. The Saints team has just been so bad. And I don't understand. The defense is what's really kept them in it. Alvin Kamara gets like this long of a leash. Like, let the guy run. I don't understand what Dennis Allen is doing. He single-handedly destroyed my Saints season win total over, single-handedly destroyed my Jameis Winston pick and my NFC to win the NFC South. I just don't understand what is happening here with this offense. Maybe he's trying to limit Andy Dalton from making massive game-losing mistakes, but then they just make massive game-losing mistakes. New Orleans has historically owned the Falcons. They've covered 7 of the last 10. The Falcons were showing some glimmer of hope there for a while, right? I have the under in this game, and that is as far as I can even begin to stomach to take.
Great. Let's move it along. What do you think about the Jags, Cowboys, line 3.5?
Yeah, I'm on the Jags. I know.
The other contest has 4. This one has 3.5.
Yeah, I know. I think the Jags are going to win this game.
Oh,
so here's
what? My dad is not going to be happy for that.
Sorry, Dad. You know, my dad wasn't very happy that I took Army last weekend. Sometimes your bankroll, like, hey, Dad, you want me to buy you a new fishing pole? You're welcome. Here's some Army. You know, like, it is what it is, right? So here's what I saw last week with the Cowboys. As I mentioned, I was sitting in there in the red zone and watching Red Zone, so I wasn't freezing to death. And boy, the Texans sure had them on the ropes. And I maybe thought this was like a sell high on the Jaguars, right? Mm-hmm. But this one opened 6 and it's all the way down to 3.5. Pam, that tells me all I need to know with this reverse line movement. I think that Trevor Lawrence can exploit the Cowboys rush defense. Mm-hmm. I think that this Jacksonville team, if they can run the ball, they can slow down the Cowboys offense, right? Like, this isn't going to be some shootout if the Jags win this game. And Dak's not horrible by any means, but he still has 9 interceptions on the season. And I think that with a good pass rush, you can throw him off of his rhythm here. I really think that this Jags team was not getting enough respect. They've won 4 straight as a home underdog as well. That was the last thing I was looking for.
I'm opposite.
Okay. I get it.
That's because I love my Jags. That's because I absolutely love my Jags. But I'm just like, you got fucking dumpster trucked by the Lions, who are a great fucking team. But I mean, you beat the Titans and you barely beat the Ravens, who have been like super mediocre the entire fucking season and one of the worst defenses. Like, you just haven't really beat anybody. And the Cowboys, I'm telling you.
Do you think that there's any little bit of part of you that thinks maybe the Cowboys are just a tad overrated? And oh, by the way, who do they play next week? I don't know if there's a look ahead spot or not in the NFL. I know that there always is in college football, and I love to exploit those. You would think you only have 17 games. You're not looking ahead. The Cowboys may be looking ahead here to the Eagles.
I mean, are they looking ahead enough to lose the game? Because, I mean, you're talking about Cowboys offense that is one of the best. We're talking about well-oiled machines for the Lions. Well, the fucking Cowboys are like right there. Like, since Prescott returned, Dallas is first in the league in points per drive, scoring rate per drive, touchdown rate per drive. And the Jags, as good of a defense as you might think they are, I mean, they have allowed a touchdown at the second highest rate in the league. In the end, I mean, that's like just a huge differential. If Dak Prescott gets back into his like comfort ways, like whatever last week was, I think that's what's. Maybe this is just a stay away, because like I think I'm just like really confused of like whatever last week was, and then there's like next week, but like the metrics show that they should still be far more competitive.
I absolutely think this is the trap line of the week. I have a feeling the whole world's going to be on the Cowboys. We'll see how it pans out. Obviously, they still have to play the game. One of the things that does concern me is the high total here, Pam, because the bookmakers are saying that this should be a shootout. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the Jags are going to win in a shootout.
Right. So then let's pass on that, because I'm too wishy-washy. And one game that you did like, the Colts plus 3.5 at the Vikings.
Woof. Have you ever seen a grosser?
That was what you sent me a list and it was on there.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a grosser play in your life, Pam? I was doing a podcast with the Fade You guys last night, who I met through the proxy service years ago. And one of the guys brought this up and I go, oh my God. And there was still a 4. So I did bet it. Remember I talked about those like 5 and 4 point spreads and what we've seen? Mm-hmm. Guess how many times I've bet the Colts this year? I bet them against the Chiefs. I bet them against the Eagles. And I bet them against the Raiders. Not saying that the Raiders are at the same caliber level as the Chiefs and the Eagles, but this team plays up to their level of competition. They just do. Matt Ryan plays a crappy team. He is crappy. How they beat the Denver Broncos is still shocking. How they beat the Broncos is shocking for me. I still don't I don't understand. I definitely know that Jeff Saturday has got the O-line playing better. He's got to limit Matt Ryan's mistakes, and they've got to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, right? Like, we know that. On the flip side, Minnesota, I was singing their praises all year long. They've all but locked up the NFC North for me. They've already went over their season win total. I think what we're seeing right now is a little regression to the mean. And this looks like a field goal game to me. Minnesota has been great as a favorite, and that is the one caveat that scares me. But sometimes in the NFL, you got to take the gross, and this is the grossest on the board.
Just some points to back the Colts. Or you can look at it. I think it's like shit versus shit. So you take the hook. So the Colts have turned the ball over at a league high 17% of their possessions. That's just like you were talking about. Matt Ryan needs to protect the ball. Well, they turn the ball over quite frequently. The Colts have forced a turnover 30th in the league. They're not doing well in that department, but we know how bad of a defense that Minnesota has. They've allowed opponents to score on 57% of their drives in the last 5 games. That is the highest rate in the league. So if Matt Ryan doesn't do well against this defense, it's all about these things. Like, the data says you should do well. Now, actually, can you go out and implement that? And like, the Vikings are allowing a first down or a touchdown on 52% of the pass attempts of 10 yards further downfield. He should be able to exploit this secondary. Minnesota running backs, they have only 24% success rate since week 9. That is the lowest rate in the league. The Colts still have a pretty good defense. Like, you should be able to contend against this Vikings team. It is ugly as fuck. Want to put it in?
Yep.
I feel like the uglier the better. Let's just do it.
So that's the NFL, though. It's literally like, what is the grossest thing you can imagine doing, imagine betting, and that's basically what it is. It's wild. The reverse line move in that game tells you all you need to know. And sometimes I get tired of like overthinking it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna bet this.
Like it.
Because it's just one of those bets. Like, it's just one of those bets. You might lose, like you said, on the field, but like, I make these bets all the time in college football and don't bat an eye.
So then we got 4, and then the 5th game that you sent, another game that you sent me, Kelly, my girl, are we fading the Eagles again? The Bears plus 9.5. I went through. Somebody said, when are you going to stop doing it? What's y'all's record? We are collectively 1-4-1 going against the Eagles.
The only one that I got was my best bet of the Colts, and that's why I got in. It's because it was my best bet. I almost thought about being like, all right, Pam, I got to take Bears just to piss all these people off. No, all jokes aside, I don't want to take the Bears. I really don't. This would not be a bet on the Bears. Bears only won covered 2 of their last 10 as home underdogs. Sure, they can run the ball. Justin Fields, giant question mark. None of that matters. Philadelphia's offense looks awesome. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. The Bears give up a ton of points on the defensive side of the ball to teams named Packers, Jets, Falcons. You would think that Philadelphia is going to go in there and blow them out. The only thing that's kind of on my brain is, okay, they just played the Giants and they're playing the Cowboys next. This is like such a flat sandwich spot to take the Bears. And that's the only reason why I had it. I'm not actually going to bet it with my money because I just can't stomach it. Right. But I will say this, I knew that I needed to send you a couple of more games, so I just added it to the mix just to be funny, just because I saw the comments as well.
I mean, it's only because like the 9.5 on the road when you got the Cowboys next week is a lot of points. The Bears defense, trash.
So just so you know, from my good friend Mark Lawrence, I wanted to pull this up because I read it this morning. The Eagles are 0-10 against the spread as non-division road chalk. 5 points or more. And that Colts game fits in that mix as well. Yeah, I 0-5 the last 5 games prior to playing Dallas, and 1-5 against the spread when the team they're facing is coming off a bye week.
There's like literally no metric though to show why you should take the Bears.
No,
Chicago has
0.
had 7 games straight go over the game total. That means
Yep.
they're giving up a fuck ton of points.
Yep.
The Bears are allowing 3 points per drive since week 7. 40%, 35% of the possessions against Chicago have resulted in a touchdown. That's the highest rate in the league. The Eagles lead the NFL in drives to result in a touchdown. That's the best in the league. I mean, there's just like every metric you look at says Eagles. But then at some point, okay, so I call those like the fundamentals. But then you have to go and say, you not we know the eye test, it's the Eagles. But then we're looking at those metrics that you can't measure of they have Cowboys next week. The Bears coming out of a bye. Just like things like that. You know what I mean?
Let me one other thing I wanted to look at was the look ahead line here to kind of see what Vegas thought the line should have been previously. You don't even want to know what the line should have been. This is why I feel like you have to take the Bears because
4
3. The line was 3.
Touchdown.
Are they really 6 points better than we thought they were?
They probably are.
Fair enough. Fair. I get it. This is just a pure, like, you got to either just blindly play it based on the situation or not, because I don't want to back the Bears. And like you said, there's nothing on paper that gives me any confidence in the Bears pick. Not a single thing other than they're playing Dallas next week. And you can't quantify that. I can just give you the latest trends, which none had Jalen Hurts under center.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of this whole game, right? Some of the math guys will I guarantee they're going to bet the Bears this week just based on the math.
Situational.
And sometimes I can get on board with that. A lot of the times I can't.
Right. Okay, so then we kind of don't have too many options to pull from. So then would you feel more confident plugging in the Bears, who we are 1-4-1 against the Eagles? Or would you rather go with like Ravens 2.5? That was an option earlier.
I would obviously feel much more comfortable taking the Ravens plus 2.5, the divisional road dog, than even beginning to try to stomach taking the Bears.
Is there any?
Because when the Bears lose 41-10, I don't want to hear about it. How about that?
But the Dallas Cowboys are next week, and they can still score 50, in their sleep at half. Call it a day. And I mean, I guess actually that brings up a good point. The backdoor cover always ends up being an option, because if they are if they're up like pretty comfortably, they're up in the second half. In the fourth quarter, they're going to be like, oh, we got Cowboys next week. Who cares if we're winning by 1?
Yeah, that is something that certain coaches do, and you'll notice that. There's a lot of coaches that are a lot more conservative. I don't know if Nick Sirianni is.
Yeah, that's a good.
You know what I mean? Like where, like a Kyle Shanahan, right? Tonight, Thursday Night Football, would he call off the dogs late? I'm hoping. If need be, we'll see how that one plays out. But they don't need to win that game. They also cannot afford to have Brock Purdy and or Brandon Ayuk hurt. So you'll see certain coaches not push the envelope, and you'll see other coaches where you're like, why is the starting quarterback still and you guys are up 40?
Is there any other game that you like, that you really love, that you want to like potentially plug in?
There's nothing that I love.
If you love the Jags, we can plug them in.
I like the Jags. They were my
better or worse than the Ravens.
If you wanted me to power rate them, I would say Jags, Ravens, 6 blank spots, the Bears.
Well, let's just stick with the Ravens then, because we both agree on that. And the Cowboys, we had talked about of leaving that one alone, because it was kind of like too. Maybe do you want to consider like the Cardinals Denver game, Patriots Raiders? Like there's a couple that we didn't talk about. Bengals Bucks. Was there any other option on there that
Bengals Bucks? I just told you that I thought that the Colts game was the grossest. I can't even imagine like trying to consider taking Tom Brady, his broken offensive line, who is amazing in the home dog on like underdog role. I know why people are doing it. I'm not doing it. That system is broken. Like similar to Brady's Microsoft Surfaces. I know now why he's so angry. They let him get mauled on a very regular basis. And for somebody that's playing football at 45, he's clearly not been his whole entire career. Remember when you weren't even allowed to touch Brady without getting a flag?
Yeah.
It seems like the tide has now turned and they're just letting him get completely killed.
Well, I was actually leaning to the Bengals in this spot, and you were talking about how good the Bucks are at home. Not really. They're 0-5-1 against the spread at home this season.
Underdog, underdog. Which think about how he never is. He just never is a home underdog. He hasn't been. He was never a home underdog in New England.
Well, what I love about Joe Burrow is that he has now been sacked at the 7th lowest rate in the league over the past few weeks compared to like the most when he first started out. And of course, you're talking about how bad the Bucks. Like, I think it's okay to fade Brady in the Bucks at home.
I think it is too. I just would prefer not to fade them on the road.
Okay, so it seems like okay then that we would just have like the Ravens in.
Yeah.
Like we're in line with
I'm
that.
on board.
Well, then that's our 5.
Okay.
We have the Titans. Kelly's best bet, Titans +3 at the Chargers. My best bet, the Lions as a pick to the Jets. And then the other 3, we are collectively picking Panthers -2.5 at home to the Steelers. Colts +3.5 at the Vikings. And the Ravens +2.5 at the Browns. Kelly, you called it last week. At worst, we're going 3-2. What are we doing this week?
We're going 4-1 this week.
Boom! Let's go. I love it. All right, do make sure.
And you know who's gonna screw me over?
The Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's gonna be. It's gonna be the Vikings. They're gonna clinch the NFC North. It's gonna be all over.
Well, do make sure to follow Kelly on Twitter at KellyInVegas. You can follow me at Twitter, PamelaM35. Do make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what your picks are and see if you are in agreement with ours. But that does it for another episode of Stack of Sense.